It's time once again for another episode of the Buckhead Business Show. Being brought to you by the Buckhead-Business-Association. Broadcasting live from the Pro Business Channel studios in Atlanta. And now, here's your host for today's episode.
All right, Rich Casanova here, sitting in the driver's seat for another exciting episode of the Buckhead Business Show, being brought to you and sponsored by the Buckhead-Business-Association. And this is a great show. We've been in the works for kicking this around for a while. Had a conversation with one of the members of the Buckhead-Business-Association about their organization, and it's going to be a free-flowing, open panel, a little different format as we normally do. So, George Rathman, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Rich. Glad to be here.
Finally, right?
Yes.
We've been kicking this around for a while. Yeah. So we're very excited. So let's do a intro to you, and we'll have you then explain a little bit about the TAB and your organization here in Atlanta and throughout the country, as well as, and we'll introduce our guest joining us in the studio. So first up, as we mentioned, George, you're the owner and CEO of TAB Atlanta Central, over 25 years of business experience in retail operations, and also NCAA Division I athletics, administration, as well as consumer goods finance. You've been doing all that?
Yes, I have. Yeah, I've kind of jumped around. It's been great. I've been very fortunate.
It's an interesting mix, which we'll learn about in here in just a minute. But you're also a ICF and IPEC certified professional coach who partners with business leaders to realize their full potential while finding time, money, and freedom. Man, that's the holy grail right there.
Yes, it is. That's what our goal is. Yes.
They must love you.
Yeah.
All right. So as a professional business career development and transition coach, George has a passion to help others obtain. And if you've ever met George, you feel his passion when you walk in the room, right? And when you walk out, it's like, what happened?
I appreciate
what just happened? Yeah. All right. So as we mentioned, your passion to help others obtain the vitality and success they desire in order to maintain or make their lives more manageable and enjoyable. You also specialize in human resources and talent management operations with additional experience in NCAA Division I athletics, as we mentioned, and also the finance consumer goods. So welcome to the show, and tell us a little bit about this TAB, this organization.
Well, thank you first, Rich, for having us here this morning. We're looking forward to it. And the Alternative Board has been around for 25 years. It's an international organization. And here in Metro Atlanta, we actually have 4 different owners of TAB boards.
Okay.
And so what we do is we help business owners try to ride their bike straighter down the road. And by that, what I mean is if you think about the front tire being the personal vision and the back tire being the company vision, how is that back tire powering you to where you want to go? So how are you staying as aligned as you can? And so we do that 2 ways with the Alternative Board. One is we bring those business owners together regularly on a monthly basis and facilitate a meeting where they can tap into each other's wisdom, experience, expertise to solve problems, gaps, issues, or challenges in their business.
And that's with or without training wheels?
Yeah, exactly. Without
training wheels. Off, yeah.
Well, with some people, they may need the training wheels for a while, you know. Our goal is to have them taken off.
Nice.
Yes.
All right, so well said. And let's just formally introduce our guest here in the studio, and then we'll jump things right into the show and turn things over to George. So first up, Kim Buchero. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Been practicing all morning, yeah.
Thank you.
So you're an entrepreneur. I checked out your website. It's very interesting and a different spin on things. You've worked in the real estate and telecommunication fields for over 10 years, but you've recently helped Tiny House Atlanta become a nonprofit and as a board member, and you're working to make tiny houses a legal and permanent housing solution in Georgia.
Yes, exactly.
So I'll be interested to find out there's challenges with zoning and so forth with that, or?
Yes, definitely. Every jurisdiction has different zoning codes and building codes that regulate what you can or cannot build. And so Tiny House Atlanta is, again, a nonprofit dedicated to educating and advocating for microstructures, houses maybe smaller than approximately 500 feet.
Right.
So we help folks navigate what the existing codes are, educate just the general public about what a tiny house is and what that can mean. And we're also working with a couple municipalities about maybe adopting a ordinance specifically for tiny houses. So we're having those discussions.
And if it doesn't fit the code, they're on wheels. You can just move it to another zip code, right?
Yeah, hypothetically. I can't technically live in them in a lot of places.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So you founded Georgia Tiny Rentals, a company that allows people to experience what it is to live tiny. And your 269 square foot tiny house debuts at the Ponce City Market here April 21st and the 22nd, available for tailgating, weekend getaways, special events. Maybe almost those people that have thought about it but not really ready to come on board can kind of take a test spin in the tiny house.
Exactly. Yeah, we founded Georgia Tiny Rentals as a separate company, separate from Tiny House Atlanta, so that we can do just that, let people experience what it is to stay tiny. So if they're thinking about living tiny, they can take it just for a night or a weekend, and you can bring it anywhere. I
think the only person that wouldn't be on board with that was Trump. Everything's big with Trump. But we'll move away from politics real quick here. Yeah. So welcome to the show, and also joining us as a panel in the studio is Andy Siegel of Siegel Insurance. You're an Atlanta native, 30 years in the business, UGA risk management graduate, president of Independent Insurance Agents of Georgia. Family-owned business, second generation.
Correct. My dad started the agency in '64.
Wow! And you just stepped right in, and
after I got all the educational knowledge, then I learned the practical knowledge being in the business.
Okay, and you're also a board member of the Jewish Federation of Georgia Atlanta for 3 years.
Greater Atlanta, right?
I'm sorry, yeah, Greater Atlanta, and past board member of Help Me with the Synagogue.
Ahavat Achim.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, I've been practicing my Italian, but that's the only lesson I've taken so far. So, but you're also a past board member of the Jewish Family and Career Services for 4 years.
Correct.
And more currently, you're the president of Independent Agents of Georgia, board member for 20 years. So you're definitely a subject matter expert.
I wanted to get involved in the industry I'm in and give back, and it's also a great way to meet people. And being a native Atlantan, every time I run into a new situation, I always see somebody I know or somebody who knows somebody in my family or somebody we insure that I haven't met yet.
We'll definitely hear more from you as we continue the panel discussion. And finally, our third guest joining us in the studio, Steve Rothschild, is a 1976 honor graduate of Babson College, Boston, Massachusetts, with a degree in accounting and finance. Over 38 years, has been working as a certified public accountant and certified financial planner, specializing in financial, tax, and business operation issues. You're also a member of the several international network of consulting and CPA firms. What are some of those folks? The international organizations are?
Well, the international organizations are designed to supplement what we try and do for people that seek our help, which is to grow their business, solve problems, and a lot of times, just like anything else, if you've got collaboration, you can get new ideas, and then from new ideas, you get better solutions.
We do International Business Radio as a spotlight episode. We may bring you in on that. All right.
Okay.
Okay. And so your goal there is to make a significant difference in your folks' bottom line, ease operations, and increase the value of customer business. Welcome to the Buckhead Business Show.
Well, thank you. It's nice to be here.
Absolutely. With that having been said, George, I'm passing the baton, the microphone over to you. Ready?
We're
set,
ready to go.
Let's do it.
All right. So, Kim, you had mentioned that something had come up recently that you would like to seek some feedback from Steve and Andy on.
Sure. So the topic that I've got is really coming into this new realm of Georgia Tiny Rentals and Tiny House Atlanta. We've got a lot of folks who are interested in what we do, a lot of opportunities that I'm evaluating in terms of meeting with different people. And really the feedback I'd like is just when you all are looking at new business opportunities and new prospects and I guess just different options, how to basically evaluate them and prioritize time management. This is, for me, it's really a new world. It's not telecom, which I'm very accustomed to, or real estate. So I don't have a rubric yet for evaluating these different opportunities. So just any sort of insights that you guys have from your industries on, managing from a cost and time perspective, how to pursue different opportunities.
And so, Steve and Randy, what clarifying questions do you have for Kim before we get into offering her some insights?
Well, the biggest thing that people need to do when they're in any business is to develop systems, and that will help you with your time management. If you look at, and I'm a real put it down on paper. What do you want to do? What do you want to accomplish? And then you look at the opportunities that are presenting yourself to you. What you can do is, first of all, you can allocate your time based on, are these going to hit what I'm trying to do? And it allows you to have a retrospective viewpoint of what you're looking at before it comes up. So you can say, yeah, this sounds interesting, but right now this isn't what I really want to focus on. So at that point in time, I'll delegate half the time, or allocate, I should say, half the time that I would normally do to this to maybe explore it, or you might say this is something on the back burner I can read about, so to see if that is something I want to put on my burner. So it's having that kind of system in play, which I think would help you immensely in going through the various opportunities that you see and say, do I want to do something with this, or do I want to just pass it on?
Okay,
Sure.
so one thing that Steve's mentioning there is systems. What about you, Andy?
You know, one of the reasons I joined TAB was to be able to work on my business, not just in my business. I can do all the day-to-day stuff very well, but taking a step back and looking at the future and the big picture is hard to do for me. And that's where you're having to spend your time, Kim, is to how to set this up and manage it appropriately and, like Steve said, allocate the right time to make it productive and profitable.
Yeah, and some of it's just navigating new waters. Again, it's a new business, new industry. So,
yeah, you mentioned the zoning issues before, and we've talked about this in the past. But you never think of these things as the average consumer,
right?
But you're limited into which jurisdictions will allow you to even place the homes on properties, which I had no idea about.
Yeah, well, that's helpful.
So with both Andy and Steve, when you have looked at your business and taking it somewhere new, besides systems, what else have you explored that may be helpful to Kim from an experience of maybe you tried something, it didn't work out well, or you maybe another business owner that you know tried something that worked out well as they were trying to go through this stage of new business development?
Well, I think one of the things that I've learned is that when you go into a business or a new area, that you have you use the experience that you've gotten in the past to guide you, so that you can kind of have like mile markers on the road, so that you can say, man, I've kind of been down here before. Maybe this is how we ought to approach it, and also how you want to deal with it, and use that experience to guide you as to how you want to deal with things that come up. So, and a lot of that is, I think some of it is you've got to have it intuitive, but some of it you ought to probably have something in terms of a general notes in terms of how you want, with an idea how you kind of a standard way that you want to proceed through that you want to proceed with dealing with the issue or dealing with the opportunity, and I think that'll help.
Okay. Andy, what about yourself?
Somebody's probably done something like this before somewhere, and I try not to reinvent the wheel. And finding out how it happened in other states, how other companies may have started, what you're doing. You know, if you're the very first one, it's tough, but there has to be somebody out there who you can follow in their footsteps, see what they did wrong, and not make those mistakes.
Yeah, great idea.
Okay. So Steve had mentioned, setting up the process, and then even within the process, how to standardize that. Andy had mentioned where you can possibly reach out to other people who have been in transition, especially nonprofits, to find out what they have done when you have demands coming at you and limited resources, and yet still trying to meet the need of the great cause that you're going after.
Exactly. Okay, fantastic.
And so when you look at those, which one resonates with you as far as something to look into a little bit further?
Well, we're definitely looking at reaching out to some other nonprofits. That's actually some meetings that we've got coming up here that will be very helpful to kind of learn from their mistakes also. I guess we're struggling right now to put that system that Steve mentioned into place, just because I think it's going to be a learning game. You know, test some things out, see how they work, see what time constraints are involved, and just kind of put together what Andy had mentioned off air as a to-don't list. You know, even if we're not sure exactly what our best priorities are in certain circumstances, we'll know what doesn't line up with our mission or what isn't cost or time effective to pursue over other opportunities. So kind of forming that to-don't list, if you will.
Okay. Excellent. And then I know I think we have time for another topic here. Steve, you had mentioned something in your business that you'd like some feedback on.
Yes, I am going into a new niche market, auto dealerships, and I am looking at ways that I can effectively expand my business in this venue. I have joined several trade associations and become involved so that I can obviously be at the right place at the right time. And I'm also going to be at an exhibitor at one of the conventions that's being held. I'd like to have some input from y'all of what you think good ways for me to expand into this area are.
And so, Kim and Andy, what additional questions may you have for Steve around his marketing exploration?
Well, in regards to the exhibitor for the conference that you're going to be involved in, what exactly will you have a table? What will your involvement in that conference be?
It's going to be, it's a weekend event, and it's only for the people in the trade association. And you have a table, and you sit down, and you're obviously going to shake hands and meet a lot of people. And the thing I know in business, it's meeting the right kind of people. I do a lot of things, but there's certain things that I want to focus on for people that's different than maybe somebody else who's in the same business.
Okay.
One thing I look at are unique accounting rules and regulations to the auto industry. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there are things specific as there are in the insurance industry, and that might be something you can bring your expertise in to help these members.
Mm-hmm.
Being a relationship-type business, yours, mine, personal services, finding people who can help connect you with the right people at these events would also help.
So I guess looking at it that way, how to differentiate yourself in this industry of what you can bring given your knowledge in this area. What else did you see, Kim, as far as asking a clarifying question or suggestions to Steve?
So I'm sorry, just one more clarifying question.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So at the conference, the association, is it an auto association or just a general, more of a CPA?
No, it's an association. It's a trade association. It's my credentials as a CPA is just extra. It's not anything that it's directed strictly towards somebody in a accounting or finance profession.
Okay, perfect. So you're probably going to be one of not many accountants or CPAs there to provide
that
expertise. Okay, so focusing on that and leveraging what benefits you can offer them, from your table to really identify a hook. And going into the conference, obviously looking at what you're trying to walk away from. What is your goal to obtain from the folks that you meet at that conference? I think is something that should be a big focus when you're planning for it.
Yeah, and find a way to connect with them while you're there to be able to follow up when the event is over.
Oh, yes.
We recently did a trade show last summer for real estate people and got to meet a lot of agents around town, and it was very helpful.
And Andy, you mentioned the follow-up after the trade show with either what you've been involved with a trade show or even Kim, anything around that. What is the pre-work that you had to do that maybe will be helpful to Steve as he starts to think about the first step before actually getting to the trade show?
Well, really, I'd say, having some great materials of whatever it is that you think is your unique proposition. I went to an animal rights conference a couple years ago, kind of off the wall, but there was an accountant there who was also a CPA, and she was a financial advisor, and she did services where she would analyze your portfolio and help you kind of customize whatever your current investments were to be more animal friendly. So selling off investments that were not super animal friendly, and investing other companies that had better practices toward animal rights. So she was not the average table at that trade association at that conference, but she had a very specific product which I was very interested in, and her follow up. She had a great brochure which just laid it out. So if she didn't have time to spend with me, she could give me the brochure. I'd know exactly what she had to offer. And then her follow-up afterwards was phenomenal. I mean, she sent a customized email, I think within 48 hours. So it gave me enough time to decompress. But, prompt follow-up was really helpful, and I utilized her services.
So what she did there is she definitely differentiated herself
Yes.
from everybody else that was in that room who was offering some sort of financial or accounting service.
Right.
Yeah, and it hooked you to what you mentioned.
Absolutely, yeah. Most of the people there were shelters or, legislative things related to animal rights, so it was very unique. But
okay.
Yeah, we've all been to trade shows, and you walk past the booths, you grab one of the premiums they're giving away, but if you get 10% engagement with people going through there, I think that would be successful.
Definitely.
Right. I know it's not about the numbers of people. It's also the quality of people.
Okay. So with what Kim and Andy shared, Steve, what are some things that you could take away as far as next steps possibly as you start to think about preparing for this trade show and how to market your services?
I think most important is that I've got to have a message that's poignant, and it's not just hypothetically talking about somebody's tax return or financial statement, but actually drilling down into the depths of what that means and bring out to people how that can make a difference in their life. Because you've got to make it personal. Because the one thing Kim mentioned, it's an emotional. Most people do business on the basis of emotion, and you've got to drill down into that so that you can get the need that's going to drive that. I think that's going to be the key in terms of being successful.
Yeah, getting into the emotional piece and to what Andy had mentioned, just how you're starting off the relationship right there. And, the giveaway is nice, but that's so very transactional. How can you really focus in and make that connection with people with the differentiator that you're going to offer to them
right
in this industry? So
correct.
And do we have time for another?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Andy, something in your business that you'd like some feedback from Kim and Steve?
Well, one of the things that the insurance agency's been around for 50 years, and we provide great service to our clients, but I'm trying to change our culture a little bit from just focusing primarily on service, and that's still our strong point, but to also add in a sales culture and changing that dynamic a little bit to take advantage of opportunities and relationships and people that we know in the community.
Okay. So, Kim, Steve? Some additional clarifying questions with Andy around how he's transitioning his culture and, although very focused on service, how to transition and bring in more of the sales aspect.
Have you thought about an incentive program for the folks that are working in the business to do that? Because a lot of people think sales is all about talking and kind of being braggadocious, and that's not really what it's about. It's a part of everyday life, and people don't realize how unnatural, when it's a true sales process, that can be. Are you giving people incentives to develop that and to do that within your organization?
Probably not as much as I should.
Okay.
I've got a great service team that talks to clients every day, but we're not fully reaching out to the clients and letting them know other products we offer they may not be aware of. And there probably should be some incentives in that area.
So would it be reasonable? One of the things to do is to, when you talk to your folks, is to say, look, I think I want you to bring out one idea to everyone you talk to, and again, I'm not trying to make this an absolute, but on a general rule, one way that you can reach out to people that's above and beyond.
Okay.
Thanks.
Kim?
One thing I would suggest is to really communicate with your team and try to identify what motivates them. Every team is a bit different. If your culture has previously been mostly service-oriented, customer satisfaction, they're not necessarily going to have the sales kind of drive that some sales teams might have. So if you identify, does competition motivate them? Does, a financial bonus motivate them? Does, some sort of team building party motivate them? Try to identify what's going to motivate your team before you put in place a particular incentive plan or whatnot. I would definitely recommend that. One thing might be to even have like an optional book club type thing where you recommend a sales book like Jeffrey Gitmer's, Little Red Book of Selling or something like that can kind of engage them as a group, and they can kind of read it together, have, company time where they can discuss. I'm not sure, if that applies to your team, if they'd be interested in something like that, but it might be a way to kind of do a little bit of team building and start to learn that culture together, or whatever book, suits your firm might be an idea.
Yeah, I've learned that my service team has a great service profile, but some aren't always as good at selling and feel uncomfortable in that area. So I've got to work with that and how to reward them
definitely
appropriately.
Kind of informing them, so building up their skills.
And so just real quickly here, with Andy, with what you heard from Steve as far as the incentive program, and then with Kim, looking at what motivates and even having some sort of book club, what is the takeaway that you have that you could look at and we could talk about during our next coaching session?
Well, one of the things we are doing is a team building exercise next month as an office during the day, and getting out and just getting to know each other better and support each other in a personal way, not just the inside the office way.
Awesome.
Okay. All right, just want to remind our listeners you're listening to the Buckhead Business Shows, brought to you by the Buckhead-Business-Association. This is a spotlight episode on the alternative board, TAB, and so we're going to go round table just to wind things down here and ask each guest a couple of questions. One, what's a challenge in your business? What's a good day look like for you? And then finally, what's the point of contact for each of you? So how would listeners get in touch with you and find out about your product, services, give out your website, social media, phone number, home address, social security number, whatever you want to give out, except for the tiny house. I don't know if you have a home address if that keeps moving around. Yeah,
mobile.
It's mobile, yeah. So George, why don't you start things off? So a good day, and what's a challenge for you, and what point of contact?
A great day for me is when it's a coaching session, when you're working with someone, asking a lot of questions and bringing out inside of them to accomplish what they want to accomplish. Nothing more rewarding in the world.
What's a challenge?
A challenge for me is business development.
Okay.
This is something new to me as being in corporate America. Right. So this is definitely a different thing for me. So. Okay.
And how would folks find out about you? To reach out to you.
You could either contact me via email at george@tabatlanticentral.com. So that's TAB@atlantacentral.com, or 404-963-6699.
All right, perfect. Now, Steve? Sorry.
Yes. A good day for me is when I'm able to go out and reach out to a client through going above and beyond just doing, say, for example, a tax return. And a good example I can give you is I had a client that came to me that also has a nonprofit, and they're not using the nonprofit through looking at how they were structuring and paying transactions. They were not only having some issues with tax rules, but they weren't using the nonprofit to its most effect to their business. So coming up with an idea where you can go up to a client and say, why aren't you doing that? And they really catch on and get something out of it, which helps them grow their business. That's really that's got to be a highlight.
Yeah, when those lights go off, whatever. And,
right, exactly.
And how would folks find you?
People can find us. We're on the web, rrbcpa.com. That's our website. I also can be reached at 404-974-3699. 3066. That's my landline at the office.
Perfect. So thanks again for being on the show. And Steve.
Andy.
Andy, I was going to correct myself. Yeah, sorry, Steve.
Okay.
Andy. I'm looking at Andy and saying Steve twice. Yeah.
No, my biggest, challenges, or the biggest pride I have in the day is when I help a client after a claim, whether it's a water loss, fire damage, car accident. When my industry does what it's supposed to do and puts someone back to whole, that's what I'm most proud of. Challenges are the changing consumer, the social media side of things, the way people communicate. Email has become urgent. Right. People will email or communicate that way rather than calling.
Right.
So we're adapting, dealing electronically with the paperless environment, electronic signatures. Yeah. We're keeping up and trying to stay ahead of the game.
And really trying to identify what's their preferred method of communication, right? Because each client's a little bit different, but we are going all pretty much digital.
Right. Most clients prefer email, but email gets caught in spam filters, so they're mad at you for sending stuff they don't get. And
you don't know if they got it, if they didn't reply, or they open it. And
so we follow up pretty well, but
okay, great.
We check on things. We send things securely. Insurance has applications are very confidential,
Absolutely.
So they go through secure email, and we're doing all we can to keep someone's trust.
And how would folks find you?
Our website.
Andy.
Yes. Our website is Siegel, Siegel, insurance.com, and the office number 404-633-6332.
All right. And ladies, you wrap things up here for us?
All right. Well, my great day is any day right now working with tiny houses. It's a passion project for me. When we look at the average size of houses in America right now being close to 2,500 square feet, the idea of 250 square feet, maybe 1/10 of that potentially becoming a new standard in America is really exciting for me. Just the sustainable aspects of it just gets me really excited. So any day working with tiny houses is a good day. The challenge is just balancing it and managing everything. Its movement is growing so fast. Keeping up with it doesn't seem like there's enough time in the day to get everything done.
You should just put your tiny house right in front of IKEA, right? You go in there, and they have like a 300 square foot, and you walk in, there's like everything you need is right there.
Yeah, they've got a couple rooms. So yeah, if you're interested in finding us, I've got the tinyhouseatlanta.com website. That's our nonprofit. Again, if you're interested in trying to stay tiny, GeorgiaTinyRentals.com or GATinyRentals.com is that website. And you can also find us on Facebook for both of those companies. And my email is Kim, K-I-M, at GATinyRentals.com.
And Kim, I'm going to leave you with one of my favorite quotes, which you can steal because I stole it from somewhere else. But it says, what is it? To elevate, no, now I lost my train of thought there, yeah. Simplify life to elevate purpose.
I love that. That's
right?
great.
Simplify life. Because we got so much clutter going on and chaos and 9-bedroom homes, and you're in 2 of them, right? Yep. And outdoor kitchens and kitchens on the roof, but simplify life to elevate purpose. All right, so another great episode of the Buckhead Business Show being brought to you by the Buckhead-Business-Association. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us and our guests on the Pro Business Channel. Use the social media links here to share today's show and stay tuned for the next episode of the Buckhead Business Show. Brought to you by the Buckhead-Business-Association.